Hi, my name's Brianna Townsend and this is my presentation for the Specialised Ensemble skills module that we're currently studying at USW. This is a two-part assessment and we've just completed our first part, which are 3 assessments. So the reason we've been doing this module is that it gives us real life scenarios that we may have as a working musician out in the industry to see how we cope with them and also how we act in those circumstances, and it's helped us to learn and grow within those areas. So the 3 that we covered this term were, we had a sight singing situation where you get the dots on the day and you have to then be able to perform that piece of music. We also were given a lead sheet, like a piano score, and then had to do a band arrangement for that song. And then finally the last one that we had was we would get a song on the day that we have never heard before and then try to recreate that. So I'm going to talk about how I personally found these, but also how we worked as a band and what I've learnt and what I have gained from this module and what I'm going for next. So the first of these 3 situations that we had handed to us this year was we had a piano sheet given to us, and then we had to create a full band arrangement around that. So we did that for Can You Feel the Love Tonight, which I really enjoyed this one personally because it's a lovely song. It wasn't too challenging personally because I didn't necessarily have to find my part from the sheet itself, which was the task, but actually my task for that more was to be able to recreate what was on the track, as that was essentially what the idea of that thing was, which I felt went really well, and my marks reflected that as well. So that situation I was very happy with and feel that I could do that again in the future if it was given to me. The second situation that we had given to us was a sight reading session, which I actually personally really enjoyed. I do strangely enjoy sight reading. It's something that I've seen myself progress in a lot over the past 2 and a bit years in university. I found it quite difficult to begin with, especially with the idea of, I originally am a harpist, so I've been sight reading like for about 13 years, but then there's the new element of when you're sight singing, obviously pitching the notes yourself and knowing the intervals, but also reading the words at the same time, so it can be a bit of a mind-boggling experience, so I have to learn how to keep a cool head when doing so. But actually I really enjoyed this part of the module. I didn't find it necessarily too difficult, because the songs that we did do for sight singing they seemed to be ones that we'd done before, like they're songs that I'm familiar with, so actually it wasn't too difficult. It turns out from reading them that the parts were slightly different to maybe what was on the track, but actually that was a little bit of a fun to try and find those things and make sure that you're not singing by ear and that you're not remembering it, that you are singing what's on the sheet. So I rather enjoyed that. The assessment that we had with this one was the song Aquarius from the musical Hair. I actually really struggled with this assessment, as the situation was quite difficult. So the week of my assessment I actually didn't have a voice. I strained it quite badly and came in to do the assessment but actually couldn't do it. So usually with the assessment you would have about 2 hours to prepare your situation with a band, and then you go in and you do the performance. But I couldn't actually sing that week, so I didn't do it with a live band, that came in the next week to do the assessment and did it for the first time with the band there in the assessment. So all in all, it didn't go as well as it could have. Like, the band hadn't had time to practice it, and we're remembering it from the week before. But all in all, I'm rather happy with my marks from the situation, and I still enjoyed the sight reading segment of this module. So with the third segment of this half of the module, we did something along the lines of, you have arrived at an audition for a band, and they've asked you to play this particular part the way they'd like it, and that's how you perform it. So the track that we used for this was Listen to the Music by the Doobie Brothers. It actually wasn't a track that I'd heard before, so that was rather interesting. What I found different about this was that I was being marked solely on backing vocals, which I haven't actually done in my course up until now, so that was an interesting thing. But obviously in a real life situation, you may be asked to just do backing vocals, and that comes with a different skill. We had multiple backing vocalists in this particular assessment, which meant that we all had to sing our individual parts. There were 3 people and 3 harmonies, so we had to make sure that we were sticking to our particular line, but also no one overstepping anyone else, so we had to blend as well. So it was a different experience. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun song to perform, and just knowing as well, like, even if you're a backing vocalist, you still need to be giving as much energy to the performance as though you're one of the lead people, you're a part of the band, and that's really important, so you need to give the same energy while not taking away from the lead. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'm really happy with my marks. I got a 70 for this. It just felt very strange being marked on such a small part, but it's a real life situation again, so yeah, it wasn't a problem at all. I really enjoyed that one. So another thing that we did as part of these, so every single assessment that we did, part of the assessment we would have to hand in the sheets that we had for the assessment at the end, and that shows what we'd written on them, what type of documentation we had made, and stuff like that. So some of it may just be, so for myself personally as a vocalist, I'd maybe write down the different vocal techniques that the person is using, maybe like dynamics and stuff like that, or depending on if it's recreating the track exactly as it is, like maybe different pronunciations or ways that they sing certain phrasing and stuff like that. So I found that quite interesting to do. Also with manuscript paper, so for the last assessment in particular, for the Doobie Brothers ones, I decided to write out my harmony on manuscript paper with notation. So those are all things I've probably not done before, so actually it's not that I can't do them, it's maybe I'd get a little bit too confident and just decide like, oh, I know how it sounds, I'll do it anyway. But actually I've learnt the value in actually having those things written down, especially as a band, if you want to be cohesive and you all know when you're going to lift and when you're going to drop and change certain sections. Actually, if everyone's got the exact same thing written down, then you can't really go wrong if you're looking at the sheets. So that was really valuable to learn and to put into practice as well, because you could talk about these things a lot, but actually what I found really valuable about this module is that all these things that we're talking about, we're actually putting them into practice, so that has been absolutely great. So another thing that this has actually taught me, or possibly helped me in with real life situations, it's not something that we have been talking about, but it's something that I've found personally, is that because of the nature of all the different tasks that we've been doing, So we'll get given a track and we've got 2 hours and then we've got to perform it and we've got to know it by then. This has actually helped for say like function bands and stuff like that. So when I'm trying to learn a lot of songs in a short amount of time, because sometimes you've got to do that, you've got a weekend to learn like 40 songs or something, actually I've learned effective ways to be able to learn songs a lot quicker. So how to listen to them, how to write it down so I know exactly what I mean by those words or those squiggly lines. I now almost have a new language to use myself to help myself learn new songs. So actually, personally, I found that super helpful. That's all from me for now. Updates coming next term about our next 3 assessments. I'll see you on the other side.